kind of been the biggest interest I've had, I guess.
Okay. Cameron, how about you?
Yeah, kind of the same deal, from the same part of the world, Southwest Iowa. I live in Omaha now. Now working for Balance4ward. So grew up on a farm. Did a lot of row crop with my grandpa and dad, and we ran some cows and had our own feed yard as well. So definitely know what our clients experience today and can relate on a personal level with them. And yeah, so
besides having a cool name, Balance4ward with the 4 in the middle of it, what is Balance4ward? Who is Balance4ward?
Yeah, Balance4ward, we're a cattle feeding management company. We have a lot of different things we do as a company. Wade and I specifically are on the sales side. So what we do in our job is we go out and identify guys who are just trying to make more profit per head, and we believe we have a unique approach in doing that on risk management and marketing cattle. We're pretty unique on the fact of, hey, we feed cattle as a company ourselves too. Our CEO owns a feed yard. We place cattle at different places all around the Midwest. So we definitely have some skin in the game, and we just go out and try to identify with guys of, hey, we're not making profit and we want to make more, and help them get there.
Did you hear that, Corey?
I heard it all.
Yeah. That kind of aligns exactly with the mission of what Farm4Profit is. But I cut you off, Wade. Go ahead.
Yeah, no problem. I was just saying we can do that. We can go help those guys because we have made the mistakes. We've been, with the ones in their shoes, and we feel like we felt as much pain or made as many mistakes as anybody. But, the ability to learn from those mistakes and surround yourself with the right people has kind of changed the course of the company, because early on, the early days, we started out as Todd and Chrissy Drake, the owners, they started out as just wanting to ranch. Bought a couple hundred acres of gnarly ground down in Adams County that couldn't be farmed, and it's like, well, I don't know if we're going to be ranchers or custom feeders or feedlot or what, but it's come from the roots of feeding cattle, and I believe around 2006 we figured out, man, we're feeding quite a few head here. We got to figure out maybe a better way to do that, be more efficient on the feed side, whether that's feed or corn, and and luckily for us, the time frame of that was during the ethanol boom. And so there's sort of a paradigm shift happening in the cattle industry where everybody was kind of going toward ethanol and using that as their feed source. So we just happened to be in the right time. We had the right resources, right location, and off took what we called at the time New Balance Commodities. And that really took off. I think that business grew bigger than anything Todd or Christy thought it would be, or anybody who worked there. That thing really took off and got big, and kind of one of those deals. Before we knew it, we were a feed company only, and we were, I wouldn't say losing focus on the cattle side, but there were so many pieces moving every day, so many variables. We probably weren't the best cattle feeders we could be, and so we always call it, Todd definitely calls it his come to Jesus moment, and it's just that moment of saying, hey, are we cattle feeders, or are we going to be brokers? If we're going to get back to the roots of cattle feeding and really helping the cattle industry out, what do we have to do? Go out and do our homework, figure out the people who are winning and what are they doing different, and let's learn how to do it ourselves the same, if not better, and share that with the rest of the mid-market industry is what we call it.
So this is a spin-off or a product of New Balance Commodities, or it became from New Balance Commodities?
So you talking about Balance4ward?
Yeah.
I would say it was more of just a shift. I guess I don't know if I'd call it a spinoff. New Balance Commodities was really a spinoff of the feed yard, and I think we're back to our roots now. We're Balance4ward feeders first. That's what we do best. We believe we have to set the gold standard in profit per head, not feeding more cattle, higher volume, but making more profit per head. And if we can set that standard and get the right people, again, around us, the right tools around us, and the right people to identify those tools that we need, then we can take that to our clientele and make them more successful. So
it sounds like what you guys always preach about is having an advisory board. It sounds like someone, if you're growing cattle, you want these guys on your board.
Yeah, and I think that's why we've got them in here. We've wanted to get experts. That's always the job, is to find companies that are doing it. You said the gold standard. Find those that are doing it extremely well, so that way when our listeners go to reach out to somebody, the ones that possibly get exposed here, they're getting a resource that can help them really take care of that portion of their operation better. So we're specifically talking cattle feeding right now. So when we take the background that you just shared with us and we want to put this into action right now, you guys have skin in the game. Like you said, you're Balance4ward feeders first. What's one of the biggest lessons that you guys have learned that you're able to share with people when you're having conversations with them? What's something, Cameron, that you guys take pride in learning the hard way that you can now share with our listeners so they don't have to go through that pain?
Just the fact that a lot of guys, especially in the mid-market sector of this industry, are kind of out there on an island by themselves. And they're really unique on a way that they wear a lot of different hats every single day. And they lack that peer group around them and that team of people that the bigger feed yards have, that they pay millions to thousands of dollars to help them out. And I think we provide that to those guys from the perspective of, hey, we're doing this with you. We have skin in the game. There's opportunity in the market every day. You just might, based on what you're doing on a day-to-day, you might miss it. So if we can shed that knowledge and provide those areas of opportunity that we need to go capture, that's where we really strive in helping guys out.
So, Corey, they both have now said mid-market.
Yep.
Do you know what mid-market is?
I'm just assuming it's a medium-sized cattle operation.
What do you guys mean when you say mid-market?
Man, I'm really glad you asked that question because we would probably take that for granted how much we use that in-house, and the way we define that, others may define it completely different. But I think mid-market to us is, somebody who is a family operation. Size doesn't even necessarily matter. You could talk anywhere from 200 head a backgrounder or 200 head finisher up to could be 40,000 head. So size isn't really the factor. It's do their vision and values align with ours? We're not a corporate feeder. Not sitting here trying to knock any corporate feeders, but there's a lot of guys out there who are, either first generation or fifth generation tied to a family farm, and this is their livelihood and, kind of in their blood what they were born to do. Those are the kind of people that, like I said, especially if their values and vision aligns with ours, those are the people we want to help and help strengthen that industry.
Because I was thinking mid-market as being you didn't have the calf, you bought the calf. And then you're not the packer. You're
like midlife.
I was thinking, kind of like
your midlife crisis.
Right, yes.
What's the pain point? So is it that these larger, so you say mid-market, would it be top market? Do they have like a advantage? Is it the vertical integration? Is it the big four? They just can't compete? Is that why mid-market can't compete?
I don't know that I'd say they can't compete. I would say it's just a different world. So my personal opinion, the less cattle, or how do I want to say this, when cattle's in fewer people's hands, I think we all we lose in that situation. So it's about, man, how do we not feed like them? They have a way they do it. It works. And they're necessary, the vertically integrated folks.
And the reason they lose is because they can control the price from everything from the cattle to the grocery store, right?
Most of the time.
Yep.
And you know what? Honestly, there's other opinions out there on how much they really can control, and I won't get into that. What I know is the mid-market cattlemen, the people that we work with every day, we're not factory farms. So just increasing volume and just trying to knock out $20 a head, that doesn't work for a guy who has limited space or resources or limited income to go feed just more and more and more all the time and try to just capture those small margins. What we've discovered in doing our homework is the way we trade, we call it trend trading, that there is quite a bit of profit available per head. It's just a matter of timing and choosing when to go long and short corn, cattle, and feed to start capturing that profit.
All right, you hit something really high level, and our listeners are going to want to know. Trend trading.
Yes.
And then you said corn, cattle, feed. When you start working with a client, one of our listeners wants to know right now, what's the first piece that you work on? Is it trend trading? Do you try to help them with I'm going to say playing the board? What is trend trading?
Yeah, so trend trading itself is a pretty complex. I would say it's pretty lengthy and hard to explain initially, but there's three components that we strive to connect with people on, and it's trend trading's got three components. So that starts with, let's set targets. Let's go out there. Let's say, okay, how much do we want to make per head this year? We've seen time and time again guys going and saying, hey, I just want to make more than I did last year. And that's just not a sustainable goal. So if we set a target and say, hey, I want to make $100 on per head this year on a calf fed, let's go that route, and let's put a plan in place of how are we going to get there. So if we do that, then the next thing that we talk about is proactivity. So how can we set ourselves up through the year to make that $100 per head? There's a lot of different things we look at. We look at the 10-year cattle cycle. We look at shapes more instead of prices. What's the shape of the market going to be? Is it going to be a seasonal year? Is it going to be an irregular year? When is the low going to come? Where can we put that length in? Where's the top side going to come? Where's the boom and the bust? And then identifying that and working back and staying to a plan and implementing a plan based off of that. And the last one is discipline, and we feel like that is the number one thing that guys have to stick to within trend trading. There's a lot of noise, as you guys know, every day, whether that be in the markets, whether that be on social media, whether that be listening to podcasts, right, of saying, hey, the market's going to do this. We believe if we stick to our fundamentals and stay disciplined, we can hit those targets every year. We really believe in looking out in 18-month windows. If we can own the position of that calf or that animal longer, the way the market adjusts, we can adapt to that better. So if the pen goes empty, there's not much opportunity of filling it right back up. We can't manipulate that price. So let's go forward out and think forward on how we can better place ourselves in the best position.
So I think that was pretty big, Corey, that we now just had 3 breakdowns of a lot of things that we can also compare to the conversations we've had on the grain marketing side. We're all trying to manage break-evens, and that's the target here. Is we want to treat cattle like the profit-generating commodity that they are and run it like a business. It's no longer just a stick your finger in the wind, I'm going to take them to this sale, this auction, and hope that they bring the right kind of money, Corey. We need to start finding a partner for our advisory team, could be Balance4ward, that can help you do this. And it sounds like trend trading is a way to stretch the length of time you have to sell that asset, or at least make a margin on it.
So are you guys a brokerage as well, or just advisory for this stuff?
Just advisory. Yep.
Yep.
Just I don't want to come across negative there, like we're against brokers. We absolutely use them. We have some we recommend, but it's like, man, let's eliminate any sort of thought that we're trying to nickel and dime folks or make these trades because we're catching a little bit of commission on it. That's we just feel that's not the healthiest way to do it. That could change in the future as we grow and advance. But today, man, we're showing you we're very, very transparent. I talked about being the gold standard and as our internal cattle company and the way we feed cattle, and the guys that sign on with us and as cattle business systems, we're pretty transparent in what we do. We try to help eliminate the noise in the market, try to help them see the next, as Cameron said, the next 18 months. When's the time to act? Again, we call it when to go long or short corn, cattle, and feed. And if we just do that and do that really well, I hope they see us more as somebody in their inner circle or somebody as part of their table versus somebody who's trying to nickel and dime.
So when you guys meet a new listener, one of ours gives you a call, what would you say is the most common thing that you see when you take a client on? Are we talking about issues with the genetics of the cattle they're buying? Are we talking issues on where they're sourcing their feed? Or do you think the number one issue is in how they market their product? What are you guys seeing?
Yeah, I would say the marketing standpoint, and especially with a lot of clients that we deal are with farmer feeders. It feels like constantly they have this battle in between them of like, okay, corn's really high, my cattle aren't going to be worth anything. So how do we separate those two businesses and say, let's go maximize both? Think of two different things of, okay, this is this decision I'm going to make on the farm side, but now with that, I got to make a corresponding decision as a feeder. So that's one thing we do with our clients is we have a grain program of where we look at, okay, let's go sell our corn, but then let's go buy it back in as a feeder. And necessarily time of years, that doesn't always work out, but we're really unique in the aspect of how we can go about doing that and showing them, okay, this is the standpoint and this is the prices we have to lock in. Do we look at the futures market on pricing, or do we wait it out and waiting for the market to get more in our favor? So I would say number one thing would be marketing. Everybody struggles with it. And even guys who do a good job, they do think that, hey, I could probably be a little bit better at this too.
Yeah, Corey, how many people do you know? Because I know I've got a plenty long list of guys that will chop their corn silage or will just take corn out of the bin to feed to their cattle. It's not, they aren't buying and selling that corn crop and separating those businesses.
Most I do know don't want to have to buy it back. That's the point of growing it.
But if you think about that, if you could sell it for $6 and you could buy it back at $5.50, you just added profitability to your farm.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely, and it never has to leave your farm with certain programs. It's not like you send it to town and you got to go back and pick it up. It literally stays on your place. It stays in your bin or in your silage pile. You can get a check written to you for a portion of it, not all of it, but a good chunk of it to free up cash flow. And yeah, you try to play the seasonality of the market. Obviously, sell your corn on the farmer side of things. You want to sell your corn when it's high. What you mentioned, guys feeding it to their cattle, we just call it walking your corn off the farm.
Yeah.
They see the value through their cattle. Well, it's still going to be that way, but imagine capturing the most value on your farming side, your corn selling side, and buying it back at a better value on your feeder side.
In all reality, it's two separate businesses.
Two separate entities, yes, sir.
Well, I think that might be one of the biggest takeaways that our listeners have is if they currently are walking it off the farm and they aren't doing this, that's something you can do of any size, whether you're running 20 head of fat cattle or you're running 200,000 head of fat cattle.
That's right.
That's something that you can do because the contract sizes can vary, correct?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So what else when you're meeting a new customer? Obviously, marketing is usually one of the biggest focuses. It's probably something they're going to be the most unsure about. But what have you noticed on the feed side of things? Is there a common ingredient that you can introduce somebody to? Is there a common practice or an efficiency measure that you guys see as being industry leading?
I want to ask it a little bit different way. Is there one free tip or teaser that you guys can say here?
I like
that you could give our listeners and give them a taste, and then maybe they come back for more? What would help them? What's one thing that could help them with more profit per head? Don't say just sell higher.
Well, I would just look at, if we're talking about feed, I go back to the opportunity in the trend trading. Even though we do trend trading a lot on our cattle business system side, we do it a lot on the feed side too. Let's take a look at where feed's at relative value to corn, and maybe we step in some length there. We know as a company we have a team of resources around that can help with that. And I would say having guys look at saying, okay, even though it's seasonality, this is a pretty good price. It's like, let's go, if it is a good price, let's lay in some length so we don't have to worry about it. We also know that if you're doing a million other things a day, if you're comfortable about locking in a set price of feed, that's one less thing you have to worry about. So that would be the advantage on the feed side. Does that kind of answer your question there?
I didn't think about that. If we're feeding gluten or distillers or getting some ethanol byproduct, as you kind of alluded to in your introduction, buying more than just a truckload at a time, contracting something a little bit longer.
Right.
And that's something that you guys can help with?
Yeah. I mean, we have a group of merchandisers in-house that, deal with ethanol plants all the way around Iowa into Nebraska, and we set up the freight and everything as that. So essentially, all you have to do is make one phone call, and that's really what we want to do here at Balance Forward. We want to show people that, hey, you only have to make one phone call. You don't have to say, okay, they're telling me that there's an opportunity here. Let me go call my feed guy and let me go call my broker too. The convenience factor and the uniqueness about the mid-market guy, I keep saying it, is they do a lot of stuff during the day. So how can we make their life easier, essentially?
So you're the one-stop shop for feed, any inputs that go in, and any sales that go out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Try to be.
Try to be, yes.
We can't let them slide away, though. We want 2 tips of the day.
Oh, yeah?
And Wade sat there quietly while Cameron gave his answer. So what else? When you're approaching a new client, somebody that learned about you for the first time, and you want to wow them with some extra value, where's something, maybe it's not the advice, but where should someone look who's listening for more profit? We talked marketing. We talked length and contracts on the feed side.
Yep. So one of the major things I'd say we're not just starting, but it is one of the newer segments of our business, but it's one that's going to be very, very vital going forward for us. But we just come across enough people that sourcing cattle is an issue, and that's not a knock on sale barns. That's not a knock on people who go direct to farms. But when guys are dealing in pretty sizable quantities, sourcing those cattle can be challenging. So Balance Forward feeders, we have a segment of that piece of our business that is their sole purpose is to go out and find where is the good buy. Sometimes Kentucky might be, even after the freight, bringing it up to Iowa might be the better buy. And then there's other years where you can go out to Bassett, Nebraska, and buy the best of the best, and they deliver in for the same price as at Kentucky. It's having our team of people understand not just our local sale barns in southwest Iowa, but understand sale barns all across the upper Midwest and down into Kentucky, Tennessee, Arkansas, all those places. Like, there's value down there. We found tons of value in Oklahoma. A lot of our guys maybe don't know about that. They just source cattle locally because that's how you do it. I find a lot of guys questioning when we show up at their place is like, man, I just don't understand how these people go to the sale barn and make these prices work. Well, those people that are paying those prices, for one, they've probably done some forward trend trading, their own version of it. But they've made some profit on those cattle probably before they ever go to the sale barn, or they're betting on the come. That can be a pretty dangerous game to play, betting on the come, but sometimes I guess some people probably feel like that's unavoidable too. You just got to go own the cattle, and hopefully the market goes up and meets you. But it just becomes a heck of a lot easier when you know you're getting good cattle sourced in for the best value for the region.
I would say the conversations that I get to have in that industry is a lot of the 3 things that we just hit. And I'm hoping that our listeners are finding value in this, because cattle feeding doesn't have to be wild and unmanageable to where you're at the mercy of, crap, I either made a lot of money or lost a lot of money. Mm-hmm. We can run this like a business, run it like an investment, and it would be key, because I know a ton of producers that just end up with that crap group of cattle. You just took somebody's word for it, or you went and just got a call from the sale barn, they weren't getting bids, you put the bid in and they just showed up junk, or you're fighting sickness or whatever it is. And there's producers I know that get envious of having, I always buy mine off this ranch in West Virginia. The direct pedigree, what's coming in. So that's another good piece of value. And I think, Corey, the biggest thing so far that I've pulled away is you just got to put effort into it.
Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't sound like our listeners have any issue raising the calf. They have got that figured out. They've got the process in place. They're feeding the cattle. It doesn't sound like those are the first things we should worry about. It sounds like we need to pay attention to the break-even side.
Yeah. I'm excited about it. I keep writing more questions down as we go through. I used to have, 10 head growing up in FFA. I loved growing cattle. It's never really been in my family's background. You keep saying mid-market. It's like someone that's already producing. I'm thinking if I'm a new cattle producer or I want to look into it, these are the guys that I want to call. I want to call Balance Forward because you guys know everything already and who I need to go to.
Yeah, if you've got the feed, if you've got the facilities and want to get into it.
Or even if I don't have the feed or the facilities, I just want to want to do cattle as a business, or maybe you guys would advise against it. I don't know.
No, we definitely would not.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, it's not a mandatory thing when you come to work at Balance4ward. We got a good number of employees now, and I don't know a firm number, but definitely over half feed cattle because it's who we are. It's in our blood. It makes going to work every day easy and fun because you're literally working with the people that, I call them salt of the earth, the people I want to be working with. I want to try to help these people. And, whether it's the things that you've mentioned, buying a good break even, knowing when to do that. I mean, we have multiple other levers that we can pull as a company. And it's just about going and starting that relationship and digging a little bit deeper. Okay, we've got a plan now on the marketing with each client. You start, okay, now we got your marketing plan going. Okay, now we got your sourcing your cattle thing going. It's digging to that next level. Say, what else is there? We have so many levers we can pull. Is it on the nutrition side? Is it on the we call it operational solutions, where maybe a guy is seeing some sort of sickness time and time again. We've had that very specific example where a gentleman had his death loss was through the roof, and it was almost it was going to be very, very hard to be profitable. So it's like, man, if we can just go find the right people to go help him, give him the right advice to knock his death loss down, all of a sudden, this becomes a very valuable or very worthy program for him.
It is. This is.
Yeah.
It sounds like locking in a trusted advisor, but it's a team. I mean, I'm sure there's other companies, there's other people that do this, but the reason for this episode is we wanted to provide education, opportunity for someone who's got cattle. We had a dairy producer write in saying he wanted to know what it would take to get into raising fat cattle. Dairy business wasn't doing so great, or the family was going away from that labor-intensive side of the business. We've also had young farmers write in and say, well, I don't know how to get started. Sounds like we might have provided a little bit of an option, or at least someone to start a conversation with.
And going back to the new producer side of things, diversification is kind of what we preach, right? Commodities or grain farming right now might be great, but we know it's not going to stay there. Mm-hmm. Went back in the day growing up, they always said, the hogs paid the mortgage, type of deal. So being diversified, so when one thing goes down, you can lean on the other, would be big. So what's in the future? Are you guys just going to continue to focus on cattle, or is there any other livestock you might incorporate, or are those too far gone into the vertical integration of things? So I'm a hog guy, so that's why I got to ask that question.
It's funny you ask that, because a lot of what we learned came from the hog industry. When I say we went out and did our homework, is that come to Jesus moment was like, okay, man, if we're going to be a cattle feeding company, let's go find the top 20 best, the wealth earners. What are they doing different? Well, they have this team of financial advisors, or not even financial advisors, that was the wrong word, but a group of advisors, because in the ag industry, whether it's corn, cattle, goats, doesn't matter, there's a lot of noise in the market. You turn on the radio, you look at Twitter. I mean, there's opinions and noise coming from everywhere. And honestly, listening to that noise can sway your plan that you originally had in place. So if you can eliminate a lot of these factors, eliminate a lot of these variables, like you keep bringing up a new guy starting, like we absolutely think that can be done. I'm literally an example of, I don't know when it was, 3 or 4 years ago. Didn't know what the heck I was doing, but I went and bought a feedlot and started farming because I was hanging out with people who were doing it every day, watching it happen, and I wanted to be a part of it and get my own hands dirty a few times. And I thought, man, what better way to learn and connect with my clients? Because at the end of the day, it's all about making your clients better. So,
well, I like that we've got a lot of listeners that might be row crop only and are looking for ways to diversify or just earn more wealth. And this is one way that they could do that by, you hate to say it, the wick of a pen, but it can all be done that way with the right advisory team and put it together. So
without going and getting more ground.
Right.
Like, they're looking, because that's the hardest thing to find.
Yep, absolutely. So before we jump into our payoff question, which is what's the best advice you've ever been given, why don't you tell our listeners kind of what's the best way to reach out to you and kind of give them a call to action. We appreciate you guys spending your time here. We want to reward you that if someone is curious about jumping into this, we want them to reach out to you first and try that. So what is the best way for them to get a hold of you, and what does that first meeting look like?
Yeah, if they just want an overview of looking at the company, we do have a website, balance4ward.com, that dives into a lot of stuff we do, whether that be on the marketing side, feed side, our custom solution side, financial side, whatever. You can find that on the website. I can leave my phone number with you guys. My name is Cameron Eckman, like I said. We got an email. I can leave my email, and we can get that to you too. And just reach out if you, we do a lot of different meetings where we would actually come out onto your place and visit you and just talk. If you're not a fit for our feed side, maybe you want more information on the marketing side. We have different cattle, we call them cattle business managers, that go out and talk with guys, so we could set up a meeting like that as well, and just get to know you better and talk about what you're looking to improve on.
Is this a cost per head or a flat cost, or how does your services work for that?
So, I mean, on our marketing side, our cattle business side, it's just a monthly fee. There is no cost per head or margin base. Feed side, it's just a direct fee as well. We just like direct and to the point. We think that's the best way going about doing things, and we show if we break it down on cost per head, we can do that for you too. But it just a direct fee is what we stick to.
There you go. You know what it's going to be.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
There's no surprises.
Nope.
Wade, you got anything you want to add to that?
Remind me of the question.
What's the best way for people to get a hold of you guys, and what type of push you're looking here this fall?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I feel like for these guys who are wrapped up in their own operations every day, and like Cameron mentioned this earlier, where they're wearing one of 15 hats. One day they're the accountant, one day they're fixing fence, and one day they're the feed guy. They got 1,000,001 things going on, and it'd be pretty easy to just keep putting your head down and grinding. But if you give us half hour to an hour, and we're not going to come in and hard push you, we're making sure it's a fit for us too, because like I mentioned earlier, their values and their vision have to line up with us as well. So if you could find a half hour to just talk and find maybe a better solution to doing some of the things you're doing in your own operation, maybe doing some of the things better, we would love to start there and just be able to show you what we can do and see if there is a fit there. And if not, I mean, we're not going to be overly aggressive or overly pushy.
Yeah, we don't like to come in and change stuff guys are doing. We realize, especially in this part of the world, a lot of guys do a lot of stuff really great, and we just like to be an extra tool you can pull out at any time. So if there are some stuff you are struggling on or would like to improve or get better at, that's just where we come in. So
Nice. Well, good. I will jump into a summary for this, Corey. Going to tackle you with the challenge here. I'm going to tackle you? I'm going to assign you the challenge today,
Got it.
Corey. And then you guys be thinking about the answer. Best advice you've ever been given to wrap this show up. So we had Wade and Cameron here from Balance4ward. Remember, that's got the 4 in it. They're cool just like us here at the podcast. They are here to help our listeners become winners, if they aren't already, and become the gold standard for cattle feeding. We look at all levels of the operation, from the feed that goes into the animal, how we source that animal, and then what we do on the marketing side to make sure we ensure high levels of profitability. They talked about trend trading, which focuses on 3 key targets. They want to set a target first, be proactive in their marketing, and also have discipline. They want to establish a understanding so you know when to act. Their cattle business systems allows you to maximize both the ability to sell your corn crop and sell your cattle, so you're not just walking your crop off the farm. We can look at things such as length of contracts on the feed side. We can look at ways that you're sourcing your cattle. We can look at other calls to action to help you achieve higher levels of profitability. The most important thing that they're able to provide is a team of experts. They're going to work with you to build a plan, whether it's on the marketing, the feeding, the sourcing, or any side of your cattle operation. They're going to help you drill down to what your target is and put that plan in place, and ultimately not force you to act, but give you literally no excuse to not do what is right for your farm. So we're here, again, talking with Balance4ward, trying to tackle the topic of helping you be a more profitable cattle feeder, or another way to diversify your operation.
Yep. That's good. And I think my challenge would be is if you are a cattle person right now, is to look at adding these guys to your advisory team. And if you're just looking at possibly don't have cattle, but looking at diversifying your farm, look at these guys, because I'm thinking about it right now. If I'm going to go into something, I want someone on my team that knows the game.
Yeah, I would agree. And if it's not something you've done before, you want to find trusted advisors to do it with.
Yep.
Good challenge. Gentlemen, before we send you off, what is the best advice you've ever been given? Cameron, you get to start.
There's opportunity everywhere, every day, and just knowing when and how and where to look is the biggest thing. And being a younger guy, I struggle with that, thinking that I had all the answers. But there is people who actually aren't just trying to make money off of you and are really trying to help you at the end of the day. So just looking and asking for help is something that I've always valued, and I think as a company we can do that well for people as well.
Wade?
Man, I've heard a lot of good ones. I've had a lot of good coaches, and some of them stick with me even now that I'm an old man. But I think the one that I live by the most, maybe, or refer to the most, is that good enough is never good enough if you're capable of more. And that just means that you can get comfortable, you can get lazy if you reach a certain status, or you're maybe happy with where you're at, and that's fine for a lot of people, but for certain people are wired to keep going and figuring out how much better you can get, how much more you can get. And so if you're capable of more, it's not good enough.
I like that. That was a good one to end on, Corey. And listeners, thank you for hanging out with us again on another Farm for Profit episode. If you've got topics or people to talk to, farmforprofitllc@gmail.com. But until next time, have a good one.